In 2003, Nokia released a device that would move 250 million units. To this day, the Nokia 1100 remains the best-selling consumer electronic product in human history. The company behind it originated far from Silicon Valley. They were a 19th-century Finnish conglomerate that spent decades manufacturing paper products, car tires, and rubber boots before pivoting to digital telecommunications. By the early 2000s, Nokia ruled the 2G era by mastering physical manufacturing. They built a global supply chain that pumped out phones capable of surviving severe drops, with batteries that routinely lasted an entire week on a single charge. Look at this chart comparing global unit sales in 2003. Nokia's volume dwarfs its nearest competitors, Motorola and Sony Ericsson. At this scale, Nokia wasn't just leading the market, they were in a category of their own. Nokia won by perfecting the established rules of hardware manufacturing. But that success anchored them to the rules, even as the game began to change. In January 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and pulled a new device out of his pocket. Nokia's reaction was clinical. Their engineers acquired the new iPhone, brought it into their labs, and dissected it to evaluate its physical components. Through the lens of traditional hardware engineering, their assessment was factually correct. The iPhone was a poor telephone. It lacked 3G support, it dropped calls frequently, the audio quality was subpar, and the battery struggled to survive a single day. Nokia engineers expected consumers to reject these flaws. However, they had missed a conceptual shift. The iPhone was an internet-connected pocket computer that happened to make calls. The core value of the mobile device was migrating away from physical specifications and toward the digital interface. Nokia relied on its own operating system, called Symbian. But Symbian was a legacy of the 1990s, designed for small screens navigated by physical numeric keypads. Trying to force that legacy architecture to power a modern, fluid, app-driven touchscreen interface caused massive friction. The internal code became a bloated, tangled mess. This chart illustrates the resulting bottleneck. While Apple engineers could deploy a new software feature in a few days, Nokia's fragmented internal systems meant that modifying a single drop-down menu on Symbian could take up to 6 months. Later in 2007, Google launched Android as a free, open-source operating system. Nokia refused the offer, choosing to protect its pride rather than run the same software as its competitors. They were carrying too much technical debt to pivot. The hardware giant was trapped in a software cage of its own making. By 2011, the market had split. Apple controlled the high-end market, while Samsung used Android to capture the mid to low end. With market share bleeding away, Nokia's new CEO, Stephen Elop, issued a memo comparing the company to a worker standing on a burning oil platform. To survive, he argued, Nokia had to jump into icy waters. That jump meant abandoning Symbian. Nokia signed an exclusive partnership to run Microsoft's Windows Phone software. While the hardware was well built, the ecosystem was empty. Developers ignored the platform, leaving phones without apps, while carriers struggled to explain the product. In 2012, Samsung took the top spot as the world's largest mobile manufacturer. By 2014, Nokia sold its mobile division to Microsoft for $5.4 billion, a fraction of what the empire was once worth. Nokia didn't fail at building phones. They failed because they didn't realize the world no longer wanted phones at all.